Hey gang, what's up? Hope everybody's having a good day out there today, and welcome back to Intuitive Angling. Guys, today we're going to revisit the entire back reeling controversy. We're going to get into that because I've been having a lot of comments on this topic, even though that we've done a few videos on it in the past, because I've done some reel videos this week and it's sort of coming up, so I want to go over this again. And I'm going to make the case in this video, guys, about how, in my opinion, if you use a drag, it's like a kid using training wheels on a bike. There's no difference, because if you, the only reason people should, the only reason people use drags is they don't know how to back reel. And again, I'm going to make that sort of that analogy, that comparison, why it's like using training wheels on a bike. And after the video, hear me out on this. After the video, if you guys got some comments on it, I'd love to hear them, but we're going to get into that. So also, guys, if you check out, since we're talking about spinning reels, I'll put 30 spinning reels in the View Products shopping tab. So when the video comes on at the bottom, you see that thing that says View Products. If you guys are looking for a spinning reel, I'll put 30 in there. And if you buy one off of that link, it's a good way to help the channel. It's much appreciated. Okay, guys, back reeling, this whole back reeling scenario that we're talking about. Now, we've talked about this before. And for those of you on the channel that have not seen it or not heard much about this as far as my stance on it, in my opinion, guys, there is 0 times you should ever use a drag. You know what happens to my drag on spinning reels? I lock them down where they can't even move, and I back reel 100% of the time. Now, before I get into this and before I talk about this, I want to preface it by saying, because I have people saying all the time, trying to get this camera set up here, I have people saying all the time, oh, Randy, you're a dinosaur, you're just an old geezer, and the only reason you back reel is you use Mitchell 300s from 50 years ago. That's not the case, guys. I don't care if you've got a $5,000 spinning reel that's got the most high-tech, smooth as butter drag in the world. It is not as effective, it's not as good as back reeling. Then it's just not. I mean, I'll explain this while I'm talking here. And a lot of you guys are going to say, well, oh, that's really good, Randy. All the top pros that kick your butt all the time, they all use drags. Okay, my opinion, here's what you see, guys. Now, this is a typical scenario on the Elite Series or something like that. These guys are up there weenie worming with their live scope with flatworms for big smallmouth up north. And they get a bite and they're fighting the fish, and they've got these reels that don't have any anti-reverse on it. And the smallmouth makes a run, and they strip out line like that off the spinning reel. Okay, if these drags were so great and they're so perfect, they shouldn't be doing that. Just let the drag do the work. But they realize a drag is inferior. It's an inferior piece of equipment to fight a fish on there, because back reeling, you can feel the fish and you can put the exact amount of pressure or lack of pressure that you need to. Now, here's what we're talking about on this. When you have a drag, okay, let's say, for example, you set the hook on a fish and you got your drag on and you're a drag fisherman. Now, you've got to have the drag tight enough in order to set the hook without the drag slipping to get the hook in the fish. Then, at that point, you don't know how big the fish is. You don't know how fast this fish is going to surge. So then you have to be jacking around with your drag, trying to get it loose or whatever, trying to figure out the exact setting while you're fighting that fish. And then again, most of the time, guys wind up stripping line out because the fish is running too fast for the drag to keep up with it. If you learn to back reel, guys, when you set the hook on a fish, your drag is locked down so you get a solid hook. And then it doesn't matter how big the fish is. I've landed the biggest fish I've ever landed back reeling was a 37-pound striper on 6-pound line. So I don't want to hear it about, oh, that's Randy, if you get a big fish, you can't react quick enough. That's a bunch of crap. I back reel stripers up to 37 pounds with 6-pound line on it. But when I set the hook and I'm fighting that fish like this, when that fish makes a run, I can back reel however fast I need to. If I need to back reel like that, I can. If I need to barely back reel like that, I can. I can totally react correctly 100% of the time to any surge that fish makes. Now, a lot of times you don't know how that fish is hooked. Let's say, for example, there's one barb in the back of the fish's mouth like that, just barely skin hooked. I don't care how loose you have your drag, you're not going to be able to have it loose enough like you can back reeling to put no pressure on that fish so that fish won't pull out. And all you guys that are saying, well, Randy, all these young guys out there, they're kicking your butt and they all use drags. Here's my counter to that. Let's say, for example, that they hook 500 fish on a spinning reel every year. And let's say out of that 500 fish, they wind up losing 50 fish, because they've got a drag. If they learn to back reel and they became efficient at that, it's probably going to cut the amount of fish they lose in half, because I have seen it time and time again, guys. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen co-anglers, amateur fishermen, pro anglers, whatever, that they fight a fish and they're fighting it, and because their drag is not set right, they either lose the fish gets them in cover, or they break the fish off because the fish makes a run. So the point is, guys, is you should never ever use your drag. If I was a reel designer, I would not even have a drag on there. It's a non-issue. I would have a good anti-reverse. Don't ever buy a reel. All these new reels that are coming out with no anti-reverse, don't fall into the propaganda, guys, because it is propaganda. It's just like the media. They start with a certain narrative, and even if it's a fake narrative, they keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it until people believe it. It's the same with not using the back reeling technique. It's the same with these drags that don't have anti-reverse. Get you a reel that's got an anti-reverse on there. Don't waste your money on the reels that don't have anti-reverse on there. And practice back reeling. It's just like go out there and put you a chunk of liver on and catch you a 5 or 10 pound channel cat and just practice your back reeling technique. It's like you can work those fish out, you can back reel them, and it just becomes an art form. You can work with the fish and you can read the movement of the fish by back reeling. You cannot do that with a drag. Don't be one of those guys with your braided fluorocarbon that's going like this every time a fish is running. It's just ridiculous. Again, it's like a kid using training wheels if you use a drag. So anyway, guys, that's my 2 cents on the thing. Again, I'll put those links for the reel in the description here. Also, guys, if you're looking for a rod, man, I said this is like this Megabass Levante whip snake. This thing is freaking awesome. It's the best spinning rod I've ever used. And I'll put the Baitworks link in the description if you guys would like to get you one there. But man, this thing feels so good in your hand. Feels so good when you're back reeling a big fish on there. So give it a try. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you later.